Good morning and welcome. We're happy you're here today for North Dakota's Teachers Fund for Retirement Virtual Retirement Workshop. No matter where you are in your career, we hope you leave today with greater confidence, practical tools, and answers to your questions about your retirement benefits and options. Thank you for your dedication to North Dakota students and communities. We appreciate the work you do every day, and we're honored to be part of helping you prepare for a secure and rewarding retirement. We encourage you to ask questions, participate in the discussions, and connect with one another throughout the workshop. Welcome, and let's get started. What is TFFR? The North Dakota, and Sarah, please let me know if my slides aren't advancing, because like I said, I have some weird screen stuff, but hopefully we're on the piggy bank screen.
It looks good right now, Jamie. You're doing
fine.
Okay,
Good. Okay. The North Dakota Teachers Fund for Retirement is the pension plan that provides retirement, disability, and survivor benefits for eligible North Dakota public educators. It helps teachers build financial security throughout their careers and into retirement through a defined benefit retirement plan. TFFR is funded through three major channels: member contributions, employer contributions, and investment earnings. As you can see, investment income makes up the majority of the funding source, but of course, investments couldn't be possible without the employee and employer contributions. Who can be a member? I mean, it sounds pretty great, right? To have a guaranteed monthly pension payment every month for the rest of your life. I'd want everybody to be in this, but not everybody can. Members in North Dakota Teachers Fund for Retirement have two criteria to meet. First, they must be licensed to teach in the state of North Dakota. And second, they have to be under contract with a K-12 North Dakota public school system. Depending on your start date, members are placed into tier statuses. Tier 1 grandfathered, Tier 1 non-grandfathered, and Tier 2 members are our current three tier statuses. They each have their own vesting period, unreduced retirement eligibility, reduced retirement eligibility, and retirement formula. So real quick, the vesting period for each, you might want to identify which one you're in. If you're a Tier 1 grandfathered member, you're the Rule of 85. If you're a Tier 1 non-grandfathered member or a Tier 2 member, you're a Rule of 90 member. The vesting period for the Tier 1 grandfathered member is 3 years. So anybody who was employed, so up here on the top, within 10 years of normal retirement by June 30th of 2013, you're a Tier 1 grandfathered member. You have the Rule of 85. And as long as you've worked 3 years, you're entitled to a retirement benefit at your rule or when you turn 65. Tier 1 non-grandfathered members also have a 3-year vesting period, and Tier 2 members have a 5-year vesting period. Under the unreduced retirement eligibility, Tier 1 grandfathered members have no minimum age, where the Tier 1 non-grandfathered and Tier 2 members have a minimum age of 60. The rules are 85, 90, and 90, and all of them have a normal retirement age of 65. So if you yourself or if you have a colleague that started teaching later in life and there's no way that you're going to reach your Rule of 90 before the age of 75, which that happens, just know that once you reach the age of 65, which is the normal retirement age, you qualify for an unreduced benefit based on your current salary and service credit. So if you're not going to be able to reach your rule, don't panic. Age 65 is normal retirement. If, for some reason, you need to draw a benefit before you reach your rule or your normal retirement age, the minimum age to start drawing is age 55. And then there are reduction factors associated with an early reduced benefit. These reduction factors are applied for every year that you go early. So Tier 1 grandfathered members, if you retire 2 years early, there will be a 12% permanent reduction on your benefit, but that is an option that members have. Benefits are based on a retirement formula. It is your final average salary times your service credit times 2%. Tier 1 members use their 3 highest salaries to calculate the final average salary. And Tier 2 members use their high 5 years to calculate their final average salary. Now, these high salaries can be found anywhere in your teaching record. It doesn't have to be, we don't take your final salaries, we take your highest salaries. So let's say 3 years ago, you had a teaching contract, and then you did an extended contract, and then you coached volleyball. So you might have a really high salary 3 years ago or 5 years ago. We're going to use that high salary, even if it's not your final salary, one of your last ones. So just know that it's the high salaries found anywhere in your teaching career that we're going to use for your benefit formula. So knowing what goes into your final average salary and service credit is pretty important. So what goes into your salary? What counts as salary to help drive up your benefit? So of course, your teaching contract. Any contract that you sign with the school for teaching is going to automatically be reported into your final average salary for TFFR. Also, any administration. So if you're a superintendent, a dean of students, an athletic director, any of those administrators, as long as they're licensed with North Dakota, those contracts are reported for salary. Any supervisory duties. So if you're supervising the lunchroom, if you are outside on recess duty, if you're supervising the prom committee or a book club, those, and the school's paying you for those are all reportable salary to help increase and get your salaries as high as possible. Also, any extracurricular duties are reportable. So if you're coaching, if you're the FFA advisor, if you are, there's all kinds of extracurricular in schools these days. So if you sign an extracurricular contract, those are reported to TFFR as well. The last box here in the corner about any salary reduction is just a reminder that the salary the school reports to TFFR is your gross salary. So it's before any deductions are taken out. So we get the whole amount. If we find a school that's reporting your salary, like let's say after your health care deduction is taken out or after your 403B contribution is taken out, we will work with the school to correct that salary. It's always really good to have the members have a second eyeball on their salaries to ensure that their full contract is being reported without any deductions. And so in your online TFFR account, you can create and produce what's called a member account copy. And on the account copy, on the second page is a list of all of your reported salaries throughout your career. And so at some point, it doesn't have to be today or this week, but at some point you should log in, create an account copy, and review your salaries and make it an annual thing. Maybe it's when you change your fire alarm batteries, or maybe it's after the New Year party, that it just becomes an annual process that you review your salary from TFFR and make sure that it's being reported properly. Every month, you're probably aware that 11.75% of your paycheck goes into TFFR's retirement account for you. Now, you might pay this as the employee. The school may pay it for you. That's part of contract negotiations at the school level, but some schools do pay a portion or all of the employee contributions. But either way, the employee contributions go into an account balance for you. When you log into your online account, you will see that account balance in the upper right-hand corner. Why is this important? Well, your benefit is based on your final average salary and your service credit. So it's not based on your account balance, but it's important because it's a financial monetary asset. If you were to leave employment or pass away, you have an account balance here that we would need to process for your beneficiaries. So just know that you have an account balance. It includes the employee contributions plus 6% earned. And it is there if you separate employment, you can take it out in cash or roll it over, or if you pass away, your beneficiaries may receive it. And so it's very important to ensure that you have beneficiaries listed on your account, which you can also update in your online member self-service portal. So if an accident were to occur, we would know exactly who to contact. Leading into that, who can be beneficiaries? So the state of North Dakota has a law that if you are married, your spouse must be listed as your primary beneficiary. Your spouse can waive that right by signing off while you apply a different person as your beneficiary. But please know that that is not TFFR being difficult. That is literally a state of North Dakota law that if you are married, your spouse must be your primary beneficiary unless they sign off on somebody else being your beneficiary, which we have a process for that. Otherwise, you can name your children, you can name organizations, charities, or estates as your primary beneficiary, or contingent beneficiaries. So it's really wide open. We work really hard to respect your wishes, and this is your financial asset. And so what you direct us to do, we will do as long as it's within our ability with the state and federal regulations that we have to follow. On your primary beneficiary, if you name just one person, they will qualify either if you were to pass away pre-retirement or if you retire. If you name one primary beneficiary, they would be eligible for the joint and survivor annuity option. If you name more than one primary beneficiary, so let's say you name your spouse and your spouse signs off that you put your child as a primary beneficiary with them and they split it 50-50. If you do that, the joint and survivor annuity option is no longer available. There can only be one primary beneficiary if you want the joint and survivor annuity option to be available to them. And we'll go through what that joint and survivor annuity means. Contingent beneficiaries are not required, but they are certainly helpful. Nobody plans to pass away in an accident, but if you and your spouse are traveling and you happen to pass away together, we would be able to, and you have contingent beneficiaries listed, we would be able to pay directly to the beneficiaries. If the contingent beneficiaries aren't listed, we would be required to pay to the estate. And so there's a little bit more legal paperwork. The payment will be delayed, which is fine. That we do that all the time, but it really is a smooth process if you list contingent beneficiaries, and then we can pay directly to them. I see a question came through regarding why aren't employer contributions part of our account value anymore? Well, honestly, they've never been a part of the account value. Employer contributions always stay with TFFR. They are never released to the employee through a refund. When a member starts their annuity payment, so at retirement, when you start your annuity payment, it's for life. You're going to get it every month for the rest of your life. And it initially it comes out of 3 buckets. So your first bucket is your account value. So every month when we pay your benefit, we're going to take it out of your account value. That's going to deplete in about 7 years. So your account balance is going to be gone in about 7 years once you start your annuity payment. Well, we pay this benefit for life. So where does that extra money come from? Well, once your account balance is gone, we pull from your employer bucket. And so probably for the next 7 years, we will pull your benefit from your employer bucket. And if you're still living after your employer bucket is depleted, then we start pulling out of the investment bucket. So your employer contributions, they stay with you because they benefit you because it's how we fund your lifetime benefit. but they always stay with the fund. So if you choose to separate from employment and you choose to take your retirement with you, members are only eligible to receive the employee portion and the interest earned on that employee portion. Great question. So any questions on the beneficiaries? Because I think I'm pretty much done with the beneficiary slide. Okay, great. If any come up, I'll certainly take them. Moving on, so because Teachers Fund for Retirement is a monetary asset, they oftentimes do get caught in divorce proceedings. It can be an incredibly complicated process, and so my main takeaway for you on this slide is that if you yourself are going through divorce, or if you have a coworker that's confiding in you that things are difficult and there may be a divorce, or if they're in a divorce, please have them reach out to TFFR right away. The sooner we can get in contact with them and their legal team, the easier the process is, because there are legal paperwork and documents that need to be filed, and there's a certain way the benefit needs to be split. And so just know that oftentimes TFFR retirement accounts do get caught in the divorce proceedings. And if you're in that situation, or you know somebody in that situation, have them reach out to us right away, and we will help them navigate to ensure that their account is processed appropriately. So part of that service, or part of that benefit formula, is your final average salary times your service credit times 2%. So we went through and talked about what qualifies for salary. Now let's talk about how you get the most out of your service credit. So service credit is applied to members' TFFR accounts once they've earned 700 hours for each school year, which we document as fiscal years. So that is July 1 to June 30th of the following year. So that, trends with the school year. So we generally believe, or the general belief is that teachers put in about 1,400 hours per year. Now, you and I know that that is not true, but if you count the school hours and the number of days in session, it's about rounded to about 1,400 hours a school year. 700 hours then would equal about half a school year. So if you teach in a fiscal year 700 hours with a qualified employer and you're licensed to teach in North Dakota, you will earn 1 service credit in our program. If you earn less than 700 hours, then it is prorated. So you can see the formula on the screen. So, we would prorate your service credit. So you're not out of luck. It's not 1 or nothing. If you teach over 700, you get 1. If you teach less, we prorate it for you. The other way to enhance your benefit is by increasing your service credit numbers. Obviously, you can work each year and earn a service credit, but you can also purchase service credit. And we will go through the types of purchase service on the next slide. Purchases can be purchased through, they can be paid for through either a lump sum payment, and that can be in cash or rollover. Some people will take money out of their 403Bs or their IRAs to pay for it, or they can sign into an installment agreement where they would make monthly payments. We can finance up to 60 months or 5 years, and it is at a 7.15% interest rate. So there are a couple different ways to finance or to pay for your purchases. And so if you're interested, feel free to give the office a call and we will walk through what you have available and what could work. The other way to enhance service credit is through a dual membership. So we are sister programs with ND-PERS. And a lot of teachers start their career out as a teacher's aide. And teacher's aides are reported to ND-PERS. So if you have ND-PERS service credit, we work together, the two systems work together to help you get to your rule as soon as possible. So let's say that You have 3 years as an aide in the beginning of your career. And then you get a teaching license and you're now reported to Teachers Fund for Retirement. When you earn your 27th year teaching, you're technically at 30 years of service credit because we will take your 3 years at ND PERS and add them to your 27 years in Teachers Fund for Retirement. That's a very high level example. And so if you are a PERS member, at some point I would encourage you to reach out to TFFR and we can talk about how that affects your retirement date. Let's see, I see a question came through. And that's a pretty specific one. So I'm just going to ask that member to reach out to either their school district or ESPB. You can reach out to TFFR if you would like as well. Unfortunately, because it's so specific, I'm not going to address it here on the recorded webcast, but we will certainly get you straightened out. All right, so the types of purchase of service credit, because we want all teachers to be able to enhance their benefit and have the tools to enhance their benefit as much as they can. So North Dakota is incredibly generous with the types of service credit you can purchase. Refunded service credit is at the top of the list. So if you were a young teacher and you taught for 3 or 4 years and you thought, I can't do this forever, I'm out, and you step away from teaching. And in the meantime, of course, you're young, you're probably newly married, maybe have a baby on the way, and you want to buy a house. So you take out your funds to put a down payment on the house, and which is a great investment. But eventually you find yourself back in the teaching career. You can purchase your refunded service credit to get that back on your record. You can also purchase up to 5 years of airtime. So we understand that life happens. Parents need to be taken care of. Children need to be taken care of. Sometimes there's a medical leave that happens. And sometimes you just need to step away. Maybe there's another opportunity. So we allow teachers to live and offer them up to 5 years of purchasing service credit. That isn't, you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to prove that you refunded it. You don't have to prove that you taught in another school. It's just 5 years that we offer you. The only caveat with that is that you do have to have 5 years of earned service credit before that 5 years of airtime becomes available for you to purchase. Members can also purchase their out-of-state teaching. So if you taught in Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota, Florida, Texas, anywhere, you can purchase your out-of-state service credit. You can purchase non-public school. So if you taught at Fargo-Shanley or Light of Christ in Bismarck or Shiloh or Trinity and Dickinson, you can purchase your non-public and have those service credits count towards your pension. Those are probably the most popular. We also have the leave of absence, legislative, military, and government. So if you have something that you think falls into that, you can certainly reach out, but we would have you probably work through the top 4 before we do the additional paperwork. Does teaching at a tribal college count as non-public? Great question. So teaching service credit in TFFR needs to be K through 12. So it has to be K through 12, whether it's out of state or non-public. University does not qualify for service credit in TFFR.
So Jamie, I was just going to jump in on the speech language pathologist question. I would just suggest to Nadine, if they have a group maybe that gets together of speech language pathologists, that might be something they want to propose as a group and something that we could then look at addressing.
Great idea. Yep, sounds good. All right, any other questions on purchasing service credit?
We had one more from Melanie, and she's asking if the refunded service credit is repurchased at the same cost at which it was refunded. So maybe you can go into a little bit about how they do that and what the cost might be.
Yep, so all of our purchases of service, whether it doesn't matter which category it falls into, is based on an actuarial formula. And so the system's going to take a look at your age, your current salary, how close you are to retirement, kind of a handful of things. So it's not able to be purchased at the same cost as what you refunded. So that's unfortunate, but it is part of ensuring the funding status of the funds to make sure that we can continue to pay benefits for everybody through their retirement. So purchases of service are based, the cost is based on your demographics and your account specifically, ran through our actuarial calculator.
And members can log into my TFFR and they can do those estimates themselves, correct, Jamie?
Yes, that is a great point. So on your dashboard in your online account, there is a tile for purchase of service credit, and you can go in there and run estimates on what it would cost to purchase however many years of service credit you're looking at. And if you proceed through the wizard, you will have to set up a form of payment, lump sum or installment. And then the next step actually shows you how it affects your benefit. So it'll show you if you purchase, your benefit will be this. If you don't purchase, your benefit will be this. Moving through to that point does not send that request to TFFR. You would actually have to submit that on the bottom. So feel free to move through that wizard and back up and try a few different things. It's not going to send it to us for an official request until you actually submit it.
Okay, and then a couple more here at the
Yep,
end.
I see that.
Yeah. How about teaching in another, post-secondary teaching in another state?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's K through 12, whether it's private or public, you're able to purchase that. I mean, we recommend that you first and foremost exhaust your airtime, because there's no paperwork for that. So you have up to 5 years that you can purchase through airtime. Now, if you want to purchase 5 years of airtime and then you want additional, if you want to purchase your out of state or non-public, we can do that. There's just additional paperwork to it, which is fine. I don't know about you. I prefer less paperwork. So we always try to use the airtime first, and then after that, we can pursue the additional paperwork and get you credit for your other out of state or non-public teachings.
So
if it's worth
one
it
more
to purchase,
question: Is it worth it? Is it worth it?
That's up to you. I mean, you have to go in and figure out the cost. It'll give you the estimate. You can work it the wizard through to the end, so it'll show you how much it changes your benefit, and it'll be up to you. Everybody has a different opinion. Everybody financially plans differently. Everybody has their assets either liquid or not liquid, or, some people have long-term care policies, and so they don't need as much liquid cash in retirement. I mean, there's so many scenarios out there that I can't tell you if it's worth it or not. That's something you have to take a look at, and hopefully you have a good planning team around you or family that can help you determine what the right path would be. And if you don't have that, I would highly recommend searching out a financial planner or an accountant or a CPA that could help you critically look at and analyze what it means for your future to do something like that. Great question. All right, so now we're going to head into our annuity options and how we formulate your benefit. So we've talked about this before. Your final average salary times your service credit times 2% is going to equal your single life annuity. Obviously, the more service credit you have, the higher salaries you have, the better and higher your retirement benefit is going to be. A little trick that I like to use here, which seems to translate well to the members, is that service credit times the 2%. So a really easy way to think about it is if you take your service credit times 2, that is how much of your final average salary you will get in your benefit. So if you're a lifetime teacher and you teach 30 years, You can take 30 times 2, and you're going to achieve 60% of your final average salary as your retirement benefit. So just take your service credit times 2, and that's the percent of your final average salary that you're going to get. So if you have 10 years of service, you're going to get 20% of your final average salary as your benefit. If you teach 35 years, you're going to get 70%, because 35 times 2 is 70% of your final average salary. Let's see, I had another question come in. We're going to just dip back to purchase a service real quick. Are those contributions tax deductible? So this is what I can tell you, Tessa. You can purchase service credit with pre or post-tax dollars. And I've seen purchases range from $5,000 to $170,000. If you pay for your purchase of service with pre-tax dollars, it goes into your account pre-tax. And so when you start receiving your annuity payment is going to be subject to state and federal taxes, including that money you used to purchase service credit. If you paid your service credit with cash, so it has already been taxed, if you pay for your service credit with cash, it will go into your TFFR account as post-tax dollars. And when you start receiving your annuity payment, a portion of your payment will be non-taxable, because that portion will be coming out of your post-tax dollars. That's a little in-depth for a workshop, but I thought I would throw it out there. If you have further questions regarding that, please submit a contact ticket or reach out to the office. The contact ticket is in your member self-service portal. It says contact us, and you can just create a message and it gets sent straight to one of the retirement specialists, and we have a turnaround time of 1 to 2 days on them. So feel free to just submit a contact ticket if you have additional questions regarding the taxation of the purchases. All right,
and,
so back to the benefit
just an
formula.
FYI, Jamie and anyone else who has questions about purchasing service credit, I did drop a link in the chat to the member TFFR member webpage. There is information on the TFFR member webpage about purchasing service credit and information in your member handbook that may answer some of the questions that we're not getting to today. So please refer to those resources. And then you, as Jamie said, you're welcome to reach out to us, but that may help answer some of the questions.
Great, perfect. Thank you. All right, so back to the benefit formula. We've got the final average salary times service credit times 2% is your single life annuity. At retirement, you're going to have a couple different annuity options. So first and foremost, at any time during your career, when you are done teaching, you can choose to refund your account value. If you do that, you waive your right to the monthly annuity in retirement, but you do have that option. If you choose to pursue the annuity, you're going to have 3 annuity types. You're going to have the single life, the joint and survivor, and the term certain. Just know, it doesn't matter what annuity type you choose. As the member, you are going to receive a payment every month for the rest of your life. The different annuity options are how you want to protect your beneficiary. So you're going to get it every month for the rest of your life. It's how you want to choose to protect your beneficiary. So the single life annuity pays the highest amount, and it'll pay you every month for the rest of your life. When you pass away, the benefit stops. If there's an account balance left, we will pay the account balance out to your beneficiary. If there's no account balance left, then nothing gets paid out to the beneficiary. So the single life annuity, which is the highest amount, has very little protection for your beneficiary. The joint and survivors have the biggest decrease. So you're going to see a decrease in your monthly benefit because you're providing protection to your beneficiaries. The joint and survivors pass your payment when you pass away. It passes your payment to them every month for the rest of their life. So you have to have only one primary beneficiary if you're going to choose the joint and survivor option. If you choose the 100%, which will have the biggest decrease, when you pass away, your benefit will move 100% to your beneficiary every month for the rest of their life. So if your benefit is $4,000, they're going to get paid $4,000 after you pass away every month for the rest of their life. If you choose the 50% joint and survivor, that isn't as big of a decrease. It's less of a decrease. But when you pass away, if you're going to get $4,000 a month, you're going to get that. When you pass away, we're going to pay them $2,000 per month. So you get more monthly than the 100% joint and survivor, but then your beneficiary will receive $2,000, half of your monthly payment. Now, the term certains are like a life insurance policy enhanced. So obviously, you're going to get it every month for the rest of your life, even if you live more than the term period. So let's take the 20-year term, for example. If you choose the 20-year term and in retirement, you pass away 5 years after you start your retirement, we will pay your beneficiary your monthly payment every month for the next 15 years. And then when the 15 years comes to an end, the payment ends. You got it for 5 years, they get it for 15. That's the 20-year term. The nice thing about the term certains is that you can have multiple beneficiaries. So this is a great option for single parents who have multiple children. You can allocate different amounts to them. If you have 4 kids and you want to do 25, 25, 25, 25, when you pass away, they'll each get a quarter of your annuity payment. If you like one better, you can give, your oldest one 50% and make the other 4 split the 50%. And that can be changed throughout your retirement process. And so the term certains, you can choose the 10 or the 20. There is a decrease from your single life annuity, but it's not as much as the joint and survivors. So joint and survivors, bigger decreases, can only have one primary beneficiary. Term certains, not as big of a decrease, and you can have multiple beneficiaries. Now, on top of those, so at retirement, you have to choose one of those 4. Refund, single life, joint and survivor, or term certain. You have to choose one of those. Once you've chosen an annuity option, you then get to choose if you want to participate in the partial lump sum. So the partial lump sum is a one-time opportunity where members, when they receive their first annuity payment, would also get 1 year's worth of payments upfront. So we would pay you 1 year's 12 payments, 12 annuity payments up front. So you would get a partial lump sum out of your account balance. If you do this, your annuity option, whichever one you choose, will be permanently decreased by 10%. So you get the advantage of having a lump sum of money coming to you, but then your benefit is decreased by 10%. And you might ask, well, why would people do that? Well, we've seen a couple different scenarios. We've seen people who were able to pay off their home and get rid of a monthly payment, which helps their annuity payment go further. We've seen people who've had the opportunity to take their family to Disneyland. Priorities are different for everyone. If you wanted to take a little vacation, if you don't have that lump sum saved up. And some people take it because they can earn more in the market than 10% of their annuity. And so some use it as an investment vehicle. So there's lots of different reasons why people take it. We just want you to know that you either have to choose a refund or an annuity option. And once you've done that, you can choose if you want the partial lump sum or not. You don't have to take it, but it is there as an option. So you might be asking now, because we've had a question asked, is this a good idea? Of what annuity should you pick? And my answer will be similar, that I don't know your financial situation. I can't advise you, but we like to be super helpful here at TFFR. So although I can't advise you, I can certainly show you historically what teachers choose. So if that's helpful at all in making your decision, the majority, 50%, and when there's a spouse involved, 50% of our members will choose the joint and survivor option. The next most popular option at 34% is the single life annuity. And then the other three kind of filter through at the percentages listed. Great question in the chat regarding if your primary beneficiary passes away, if you choose the joint and survivor option. If you choose the joint and survivor option at retirement and your beneficiary passes away before you, upon you contacting TFFR, we will pop you up to the single life annuity because that liability to the fund for the second lifetime no longer exists. And so if you choose the joint and survivor option and your beneficiary precedes you in death, we pop you up to the single life annuity. So your benefit would increase. Great question. So just a real quick look at retirement trends, if that's helpful to you. I know I kind of always like to see what people are doing around me. And so historically, this is where our teachers are sitting.
Yeah, and Jamie, just some, I call them fun facts. You've had someone draw on an account for 50 years. The survivor continued to draw on that account. So that happened about a year ago, correct?
Yep.
And we've also had a member whose account was drawn on to the point where it's now pulled over $1 million in benefits.
Yeah. Yep. So it's really quite interesting to see if you start taking, when you meet with a financial planner, they're going to ask you, how long do you want to plan your life out for? Do you want to plan to have money till 85 or 91? And so if you start taking your benefit, your monthly benefit, and extrapolating that out throughout your retirement years, it's amazing to see really what the fund will provide for you as far as financial security in your retirement, knowing that you're going to get this benefit every month for the rest of your life. So we're just so happy that we can provide this for you, this kind of financial security in retirement. And we want you to understand so you can make the best choices moving forward for yourself. But yes, very fun facts, Sarah. So outside of retirement, we understand that teaching is not a typical 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 job where if you need to take an hour because you have a migraine or have, maybe heavier use of the restroom or, can't stand in front of a classroom for 8 hours a day. We understand that that is different than the typical 8 to 5 job in the private sector. And so we offer a very robust disability program. And so I'm just going to go through a couple key points, and I'm hoping your takeaway will be this, that if you or a coworker who's confiding in you is struggling with a medical situation, please reach out to TFFR. We can talk about if the disability program is available to you and how it can benefit you financially. So our hope is that if somebody is having a medical hardship, we can help give them time to recover without really having a financial crisis. Our hope is that teachers can always return from disability benefits, but we know that sometimes you need time to take care of some things and to rest and recuperate and really focus on your health. And so to be eligible for our disability program, you do have to have 5 years of service credit. You have to be active in our program when the disability occurs. You must apply within 36 months of employment. So if you end up leaving employment because of your medical condition, you have 36 months past that to apply. There are certifications through medical doctors, the TFFR medical consultant, and some other things. So it's not like your application comes into our office and me or my coworker says, yep, they get it. We have medical channels that we have to go through, but the disability benefit is the same benefit formula without any reductions. So wherever you're at in your teaching career, we would take your final average salary times your service credit times 2% if you are approved for the program. So again, like the divorce one, this is kind of high level where there's so many nuances with each case. We just want you to know that it's here. And so if you or a coworker that you know of is struggling with a medical condition that might force them out of the teaching position, please reach out to TFFR. We would love to be able to see if it's something we can help you with. We covered a fair amount of our survivor benefits when we were talking about our annuity options, but we do have some members, unfortunately, who pass away before retirement. So if you pass away after retirement, obviously we're going to honor your annuity option, whatever you chose. But if a member passes away before retirement, if they're non-vested, so if they don't have their 5 years in, we will refund their account value to their beneficiary they have on file. If you're a vested member and you pass away before retirement, your beneficiary will have the option of the annuity payment or the lump sum payout. So, and obviously there's some caveats there. If you have more than one primary beneficiary, they only qualify for the lump sum payout. If you have just one primary beneficiary, they can choose to either take the refund or take the annuity based on the current salary and service credit. Working after retirement. So we know how passionate teachers are about teaching, and it's super hard to step away after building a career in a classroom that you love. And so TFFR never wants to prevent a teacher from going back into retirement, but we do have some guidelines. So the first one is that there needs to be a break in service, a 30-day or 1-month break in service from the time you receive your first payment to the time that you sign a return to teach contract. If you return to teach before the 1-month break, there are some penalties and some repaying back of the benefits. So that can be kind of icky. We don't normally run into that. Most teachers can contain themselves for the first 30 days. But we always just like people to know that that is one of the requirements. After that, returning to teach, we have 3 different programs. And so right now, kind of a hot topic is number 2 is the exception A, which is the critical shortage. So I'm going to jump around on this slide a little bit. So critical shortage is when you can go back full time without any hourly limits. And so there's 3 caveats or 3 requirements that need to be fulfilled before a teacher would qualify for critical shortage. One is they have to have 1 year out of no teaching service. So if you retire this year, if you retire in June of 2026, you would have to have no teaching contracts for the 2027 school year. You could do unlimited subbing. You could do extracurricular and professional development, because those are not reported to TFFR for retirement or for return to teach. But if you did anything under a contract, like if you were a teacher on record for a maternity leave, or if you were, filling a part-time interventionist position, those would qualify you for contracted. So you would not be able to qualify for critical shortage next year. So you have to have 1 year out. The other requirement is that you have to be licensed with ESPB, so you have to maintain your license. And then the third is that ESPB is required to identify your teaching position as critical shortage. Now, right now, all teaching positions are considered critical shortage. ESPB does the review annually in the spring. And so if that were to change, then there would be some categories or teaching areas, whether it's English, science, math, art, where they might carve out and say, nope, these aren't critical shortage anymore. And then that unlimited teaching goes away for those areas that ESPB determines. So those are the 3 things. You have to have 1 year out of contracted teaching, you have to be licensed, and ESPB has to determine that it's critical shortage. Other than that, once you obtain those 3 things, you can return into the classroom under a full contract. You can obtain health insurance benefits. You can obtain a full contract salary, all while still receiving your TFFR benefit. So that's critical shortage. We're going to jump up to number 1, which is the general rule. So this is what everybody has to follow if you plan to teach right after your retirement, because you don't have 1 year out. The general rule is perpetual, until you take one full year out. So if each year you're teaching 2 art classes, every year you have to follow that general rule. You don't qualify for critical shortage until you have 1 year of non-contracted work. We do have hourly limits. And so a 9-month contract, you have to stay under 700 hours. If you go over 700 hours, your benefit goes into suspension until you're done teaching, and then we would re-retire you. The final option is exception B, which is suspension. This is what would happen if you go above your limits in the general rule, where we would just suspend your TFFR benefit until you were done teaching. So those are the return to teaches.